When blessings begin to arrive, you must understand something immediately, because this is where many people lose what they prayed for, right at the moment it finally touches their hands. When money starts flowing, when provision begins to appear, when doors open that used to stay shut, wisdom must arrive with it, or the blessing can become a distraction instead of a covering. Abundance is beautiful, but it is also delicate. It shines, but it also attracts attention. It brings relief, but it can also awaken pride, noise, haste, and unnecessary exposure if the heart is not anchored deeply enough to carry it well. That is why this message is not merely about finances, possessions, or visible increase. It is about the posture of a chosen person when heaven allows more to pass through their life. It is about how to carry blessings without losing peace, how to receive provision without losing humility, how to walk into increase without drifting from faith, and how to remain spiritually clean in a season that could easily tempt you into becoming loud, impulsive, or impressed with what was only ever meant to be managed wisely. Because not every blessing is supposed to become an announcement, and not every open door is meant to be displayed before it is established. Some things grow best in quiet. Some things remain safest under silence. Some things are protected by restraint more than celebration. So if you can feel that your season is shifting, if you sense that provision, favor, or unexpected increase is getting closer to your life, stay with this message all the way through. And if this speaks to your spirit, leave a comment saying, "I will carry it wisely." Because the blessing is not only in receiving more, it is in becoming the kind of person who knows how to hold more without losing what matters most. The first thing you must understand as the season changes is that blessings are not only received, they must also be protected. Because the moment doors begin to open and provision starts appearing, excitement can make people careless in ways they do not notice until the peace around the blessing has already been disturbed. There is a special vulnerability in early increase. When you have been through drought, even a small sign of abundance can feel so emotional, so relieving, so validating, that your instinct is to speak too quickly, show too much, trust too fast, or celebrate before the thing has had time to settle into its proper place. But wisdom knows that new blessings often need quiet before they need visibility. A seed is not weak because it is hidden in soil. It is protected there. A foundation is not less important because no one sees it. It holds the house. In the same way, some of the most important stages of a blessing happen while it is still hidden, still forming, still establishing roots beneath the level of public conversation. This is why silence can act like a shield. Silence protects the heart from swelling with pride too early. Silence protects the blessing from unnecessary opinions. Silence protects your focus from scattering. Silence protects the sacredness of what is still becoming. There are seasons when talking too much is not honesty, it is exposure. There are times when announcing too early is not gratitude, it is vulnerability without discernment. Not every gift from God is meant to be displayed before it is fully established, because exposure invites energy, it invites attention, it invites projection, it invites envy from those who do not understand the cost of what you endured. It invites commentary from people who are absent during the process, but suddenly present for the result. And if your spirit is not careful, you can find yourself spending more time managing reactions than nurturing the thing you were given. That is why some blessings are safest when they stay between you and God for a while. Not forever, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. Because what is still becoming needs room to breathe without interruption. What is still growing needs peace more than applause. And what has been born out of prayer should not be thrown immediately into the marketplace of public opinion. This is especially important for a person who has known lack, because when your prayers have been heavy and your waiting has been long, the arrival of provision can tempt you to use visibility as proof that the pain is finally over. But true healing does not need to perform itself. Real blessing does not become more secure because other people know about it. In fact, some things weaken the moment you make them public too soon, because your attention shifts from stewardship to impression, from gratitude to image, from care to explanation. Protecting your blessing means understanding that increase is not only about what enters your life, but what you allow around it once it arrives. It means learning that not every conversation deserves access. It means recognizing that your peace is part of the blessing, not separate from it. It means refusing to treat sacred provision like a trophy. And that perspective becomes even more necessary when money begins to appear, because money has a strange way of revealing what a person believes about themselves long before it reveals what they can buy. Money is never the true treasure. It is a tool, it is a resource. It is something placed into human hands to be directed, not something meant to become the soul's definition. This is why money should never be confused with identity. It can support purpose, but it cannot create worth. It can expand options, but it cannot tell you who you are. It can solve certain earthly problems, but it cannot carry the weight of your soul, your calling, your peace, or your relationship with God. And if you forget that, the blessing can quietly become a burden. When humility remains strong, resources become useful, clean, and aligned. Money becomes a servant rather than a master. It supports stability, generosity, recovery, opportunity, and rest. It can fund healing in practical ways. It can create breathing room. It can open doors that were closed by scarcity. It can give structure to plans that once lived only in prayer. But when pride enters, the same resource becomes heavier. It begins to distort perspective. It can make a person louder, more reactive, more defensive, more image conscious, more addicted to appearances, more dependent on external proof. It can make someone believe they have become more valuable simply because their numbers changed. And that is a dangerous confusion, because any identity built on possession will tremble whenever possession is threatened. If your peace comes from what you hold, then fear will rule you the moment holding it feels uncertain. If your self-respect comes from visible increase, then your soul will remain fragile even in abundance. This is why dependence on God must remain stronger than dependence on outcomes. A chosen person must never let abundance replace alignment. You do not become greater than prayer because money came. You do not become more important in the eyes of heaven because your resources expanded. You do not outgrow humility because life became easier. In fact, increase should deepen your gratitude, not inflate your ego. It should make you softer toward God, not more self-congratulatory. Because the purpose of provision is not self-worship, it is stewardship, it is responsibility, it is wise placement. And one of the deepest tests of maturity is whether you can hold money without letting money start holding you. Can you use it without becoming used by it? Can you appreciate it without idolizing it? Can you carry it without changing your center? These are not small questions. They determine whether abundance heals your environment or quietly corrupts it. Because money amplifies what is already within. If humility is present, it amplifies wisdom. If fear is present, it amplifies anxiety. If insecurity is present, it amplifies performance. If pride is present, it amplifies foolishness. So never ask only whether more is coming. Ask whether your inner life is strong enough to remain grounded when it does. Because the cleanest blessing is the one that enters a heart still anchored in truth. And once life begins to change on the outside, another layer of wisdom becomes necessary. Because there is a reason some people lose peace the moment their circumstances improve. They celebrate too loudly. They explain too much. They turn private progress into public theatre, and then they wonder why pressure enters the room. Not every improvement needs explanation. Not every answered prayer needs an audience. Not every victory becomes more beautiful because it is displayed. Some victories are holier when they stay quiet for a while, held in the hidden chamber between your soul and God, where gratitude can deepen without interference, and where joy can remain pure without becoming performance. There is a difference between healthy thankfulness and noisy proving. One flows from peace, the other often flows from old wounds still asking to be seen. Sometimes people speak loudly about new blessings because they are trying to convince others, or themselves, that their pain is finally over, that their worth is finally visible, that they have finally become someone important. But a settled spirit does not need to advertise its healing. A life that is truly changing does not always become more public. Sometimes it becomes more private, more careful, more selective, more rooted. Choosing privacy over performance is not secrecy born from fear. It is wisdom born from self-respect. It is the understanding that what is precious does not need constant display to remain real. Think about how much peace is preserved when you stop narrating every improvement. You are no longer managing expectations. You are no longer inviting unnecessary comparison. You are no longer attracting eyes that are curious but not caring. You are no longer offering your sacred transitions to people who have not earned access to them. Privacy gives you room to become. It lets the blessing settle. It keeps your heart from feeding on attention. It reminds you that the deepest joy often grows in quiet rooms, not loud stages. This is why wisdom over display matters so much. Display is hungry, wisdom is calm. Display wants reaction, wisdom wants stability. Display is often driven by the need to be seen. Wisdom is content to be established. And when you begin to live this way, a beautiful thing happens inside you. You stop needing every external eye to validate internal change. You stop measuring the value of your progress by how impressed people are. You begin to enjoy the stillness of being blessed without being on display. That stillness is powerful. It protects your nervous system. It protects your gratitude. It protects your discernment. Because the quieter you remain, the more clearly you can see what is real around you. And that clarity matters deeply when relationships begin to shift. Because people often behave differently the moment they sense money, stability, favor, or upward movement surrounding someone's life. This is one of the most delicate parts of increase. It is not just your bank account or opportunities that may change. The emotional climate around you can change too. People who once overlooked you may suddenly become warm. People who had little interest in your well-being may grow curious. Compliments may increase. Invitations may appear. Old connections may return carrying a new energy. And while not all of this is bad, not every smile is sincere, not every compliment is pure, and not every sudden interest comes from love. Some people are drawn to presence, others are drawn to profit. Some recognize your growth with honest joy. Others recognize what might benefit them if they stay close. This is where discernment becomes non-negotiable. Discernment is not suspicion toward everyone, it is spiritual and emotional clarity. It is the ability to observe without rushing. It is the maturity to notice patterns without becoming paranoid. It is the calm strength to let people reveal themselves over time, instead of assigning them a pure motive just because they sound supportive in the moment. A chosen person must learn how to read changes in energy without becoming bitter. You do not need to become cynical. You do not need to assume the worst about everyone. But you also cannot afford to be naive. Favor often reveals character, not only in you, but in others. Some people celebrate you cleanly. Some compete quietly. Some draw near because your peace gives them hope. Others draw near because your increase awakens appetite. And you must know the difference. That is why calm observation matters. Watch whether people honor your boundaries or test them. Watch whether they celebrate your peace or only your visible gains. Watch whether they speak with sincerity when there is nothing to gain. Watch whether their support remains steady when access is limited. Watch whether they respect who you are becoming or try to pull you back into who you used to be. These things matter. Discernment is not built by panic. It is built by patience. It is built by silence. It is built by letting time uncover what charm tries to hide. And spiritual maturity allows you to do this without hatred. You can remain kind without being gullible. You can remain open-hearted without becoming unguarded. You can love people without surrendering wisdom. That balance is holy. It keeps your heart soft and your life protected. It allows you to receive genuine relationships while filtering out those that only respond to your visible increase. Because when favor begins to touch your life, one of the enemy's oldest strategies is not always direct destruction. Sometimes it is confusion through people. Sometimes it is emotional noise. Sometimes it is misalignment disguised as connection. But when you stay grounded, prayerful, observant, and inwardly quiet, you begin to see more clearly. You stop being seduced by sudden enthusiasm. You stop being flattered into vulnerability. You stop handing sacred access to those who are only impressed by the surface of what God is doing. And in that clarity, your peace remains intact. Your blessing stays protected. Your identity stays rooted. Your faith stays central. And that is the deeper call in this season, not merely to receive more, but to carry more, without losing wisdom, without losing humility, without losing yourself, and without letting the beauty of provision pull you away from the God who taught you how to survive before provision ever arrived. And as this season continues unfolding, one of the greatest protections over any blessing is humility, because blessings remain healthiest in the hands of people whose gratitude stays stronger than their pride. The moment resources increase, the heart is tested in quiet ways, not always through dramatic temptation, but through subtle inner shifts. A person can begin to feel more impressive than they truly are. They can begin to speak differently, move differently, evaluate others differently, and slowly build a life around the illusion that increase made them superior rather than responsible. But humility keeps the blessing clean. Humility remembers that what has arrived is a gift to be stewarded, not a throne to be worshipped from. Humility does not deny that something beautiful is happening, but it refuses to let the soul become swollen by it. And that is where true strength reveals itself. Not in loud confidence, not in flashy proof, not in the need to make every gain visible, but in calm decisions, a soft heart, and quiet self-control. There is great power in remaining gentle when life becomes easier. There is maturity in staying teachable when options expand. There is something deeply beautiful about a person who could become arrogant but chooses reverence instead, who could become sharp but stays kind, who could become obsessed with image but remains centered in truth. Because the strongest people are often not the noisiest, they are the most governed. They are the ones who can feel increase without becoming intoxicated by it, who can hold more without becoming heavier in spirit, who can stay still inside while life is changing outside. Humility creates long-term peace because it removes the pressure to perform abundance. It allows you to enjoy provision without turning it into identity. It teaches you how to carry resources without becoming ruled by them. And spiritually, humility is safety. Pride makes people careless. Pride exposes what wisdom would cover. Pride moves too fast, trusts too quickly, spends too emotionally, speaks too publicly, and resists correction at the exact moment correction could protect the future. But humility remains open. It listens, it observes, it prays, it takes its time. It remembers that blessings are healthiest where the soul stays low enough to hear God clearly. This is why wise stewardship is never separate from humility. A proud heart cannot manage abundance cleanly for long, because it will always be tempted to use resources as a mirror. But a humble heart can direct resources toward peace, healing, responsibility, and stability, because it is not trying to prove itself through what it holds. And once that humility becomes your guardrail, another lesson becomes urgent. Because when blessings finally arrive after a long season of waiting, one of the strongest temptations is to move too fast. People want to change everything at once. They want to announce the shift, redesign the whole life, make dramatic decisions, spend quickly, promise widely, and show visible proof that the struggle is over. But wisdom rarely rushes just because relief has arrived. Wisdom understands that early increase is often a delicate phase, and what comes too quickly can also leave too quickly, if it is not handled with care. That is why moving slowly and wisely is not hesitation. It is strength. It is discipline over impulse. It is understanding that the future is protected by patient decisions, not emotional reactions. When blessings come, the nervous system may want speed because it has been deprived for so long. The heart may want sudden change because it is tired of the old season. The ego may want visible proof because it wants the world to know that things are different now. But urgency is not always guidance. Sometimes urgency is simply wounded desire trying to recover all at once. Wisdom, by contrast, prefers patience over pressure. It asks better questions. It waits long enough to see clearly. It chooses careful steps over dramatic leaps. It knows that a blessing does not become more real because you react to it quickly. In fact, many blessings are preserved by deliberate pacing. A wise person knows how to let provision settle before making major moves. They know how to resist the urge to prove success through lifestyle changes that outrun stability. They know how to pause before saying yes to every request, before opening every door, before reshaping their whole environment around a resource that has only just arrived. This is not fear. This is stewardship. It is understanding that what grows steadily often lasts, while what is pushed too quickly often cracks under its own weight. Moving slowly protects the future because it gives wisdom time to ripen. It allows character to lead rather than emotion. It creates space for prayer to remain part of the process. And it helps blessings grow roots instead of becoming fireworks, bright for a moment, then gone. There is a quiet dignity in measured movement. It says, I do not need to prove the blessing by rushing it. I trust what is real enough to let it grow in order. I do not need to impress anyone with speed. I need to honor what has been given with care. And from there, your understanding of abundance begins to deepen even more. Because God does not send resources only for comfort, though comfort may be part of the mercy. God does not send provision only so you can finally exhale, though rest may be part of the healing. Resources often arrive carrying a wider intention. They are not only about enjoyment, they are also about peace, stability, generosity, and purpose. Abundance is healthiest when it becomes a channel, not merely a possession. It is meant to support life, not only decorate it. It is meant to make room for goodness, not just visibility. It is meant to relieve burden, create order, and extend kindness in ways that reflect the heart of the one who allowed it to reach you. This is why blessings can become instruments of healing. They can help someone breathe easier. They can help a family recover. They can help a dream stop living only in the invisible. They can help generosity become practical. They can turn compassion from emotion into action. And when that understanding takes root, abundance stops feeling like a trophy and starts feeling like trust. You begin to realize that what passed into your hands was never meant to end in your ego. It was meant to move through wisdom towards something greater than self-display. That does not mean you cannot enjoy what you have received. It means enjoyment must remain aligned with purpose. It means comfort should not cancel calling. It means provision should not shrink your heart. A blessing can rest in your life and still move beyond you. It can create stability for you, while also allowing you to become a source of steadiness for others. And this does not always mean grand gestures or public generosity. Sometimes higher purpose looks quiet. Sometimes it means supporting someone privately, giving without spectacle, helping without attaching your name to the act, creating peace in your environment, funding healing, choosing integrity in how you use what you have. Abundance, when stewarded rightly, becomes a form of character in motion. It reveals what kind of heart is directing the flow. If the heart is shallow, abundance becomes display. If the heart is wise, abundance becomes service. If the heart is insecure, abundance becomes performance. If the heart is rooted, abundance becomes peace with reach. So do not ask only how much is being given. Ask what it is being given toward. Ask what kind of atmosphere it can create if you remain faithful. Ask how it can become a vessel for goodness instead of a stage for self-importance. Because one of the cleanest signs of maturity is when increase makes you more useful, not more self-absorbed. And the ability to hold abundance with that kind of clarity becomes much easier when you remember the seasons that formed you. Never forget the earlier chapters. Never forget the prayers whispered in uncertainty. Never forget the nights when you were asking God for help with tears no one saw. Never forget the days when options were few, when your confidence was being tested, when provision felt far away, when you had to keep going with almost nothing visible in your hands except faith. Those seasons matter, not because you need to stay trapped in them, but because remembering them keeps your heart grounded when life becomes easier. Memory can become a sacred anchor. It keeps you from becoming arrogant in comfort because you still remember what it felt like to need mercy. It keeps you gentle with others because you remember what it was like to be stretched thin. It keeps your gratitude alive because you know the road was not always smooth. Hard seasons are not meant to haunt you forever, but they should leave wisdom behind. They should shape your posture. They should remind you that faith, not money, carried you through the storms. Resources may help now, but faith was the bridge when there were no visible solutions. Prayer was the air when the room felt closed. Trust was the muscle that kept you standing when outcomes had not yet changed. So do not accidentally rewrite your story in a way that gives all honor to the visible blessing and forgets the invisible strength that carried you until it came. Money did not teach you endurance. Scarcity did. Prayer did. Dependence on God did. Money did not create your identity. The wilderness revealed it. Waiting refined it. Quiet obedience strengthened it. This is why remembering earlier seasons is spiritually healthy. It keeps you from worshipping the tool that arrived later. It keeps the blessing in proper order. It protects the soul from forgetting its source. And there is also comfort in remembering, because it lets you see how far you have actually come. It lets you hold the present with wonder instead of entitlement. It turns what could become pride into reverence. It helps you say, I know what it cost to get here, and I know who held me when I had less, so I will not become careless now. And that remembrance naturally leads to one of the final lessons of this path, which is that peace is greater than public approval, always. The world will keep offering you a louder script. It will suggest that the point of blessing is visibility, that the point of success is reaction, that the point of increase is to build an image others admire. It will tempt you toward noise, toward proving, toward performance, toward constant updates, toward a life arranged around being seen. But that path is exhausting. It places the soul on a treadmill of impression management. It makes peace conditional on response. It trains the heart to look outward for signals that should come from within. And no matter how polished it appears, a loud life built on image can become spiritually empty very quickly. By contrast, the quiet path of peace, gratitude, and inner stability is slower, less dramatic, and far more nourishing. It may not attract as much noise, but it protects your nervous system. It gives your soul room to breathe. It allows prayer to remain central. It lets you enjoy blessings without turning them into a show. A peaceful life guided by faith is richer than a loud life built on performance, because peace does not need constant witnesses to remain real. Gratitude does not require a spotlight. Stability does not depend on applause. When you treasure sincerity above attention, life becomes cleaner. When you value prayer above public approval, decisions become wiser. When you choose God's presence over human fascination, your center becomes harder to disturb. This does not mean you reject all visibility. It means visibility is never allowed to become your God. It means you refuse to trade inner stillness for outer attention. There are people with impressive images and restless souls, beautiful displays and fragile identities, loud platforms and quiet emptiness. Do not envy that path. Choose the road where your spirit can remain whole. Choose the road where blessings deepen your gratitude rather than your ego. Choose the road where you can go to sleep in peace because your life is not being driven by the hunger to be watched. Treasure sincerity. Treasure the hidden conversations with God that no audience can replace. Treasure the quiet thankfulness that rises without needing to be posted, explained, or admired. Treasure the kind of stability that comes from knowing you are aligned, even when the room is silent. Because the truest richness is not that people see your increase, it is that your soul remains intact while you carry it. And this is where the whole message lands with its full weight. When blessings come, the greatest protection is not speed, not display, not applause, not even the visible size of what arrived, but humility, wisdom, and faith. Abundance reveals the heart. It does not create it from nothing. It uncovers what is there. So remain grounded in gratitude. Remain careful in your choices. Remain honest about your need for God. Let your increase pass through a quiet spirit rather than a restless ego. Let your blessings be covered by wisdom rather than exposed by impulse. Let your life become steadier, not louder. Let your resources become purposeful, not performative. Let your heart stay soft. Let your steps stay measured. Let your soul remember the days that built its dependence. The chosen path is not the noisiest one. It is the clearest one. It is to stay calm when more arrives. Stay quiet when attention increases. Stay wise when options expand. And let every blessing be carried with peace and purpose, so that what was sent to help your life does not end up harming your center, and what was given as mercy becomes, in your hands, something beautiful, stable, and worthy of the one who entrusted it to you.